Hello, everybody. Greetings, book lovers everywhere, and welcome to Eat Train Talks. I am your host, Ethan Minton. I am a 14-year-old literacy advocate, podcast host, and the founder and CEO of Eat Train Talks Inc., which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to inspiring love of reading and ensuring every child has access to books. And today, we're celebrating a holiday filled with light, hope, and amazing stories. I am thrilled to welcome a group of Hanukkah storytelling heroes, the authors and illustrators who have brought some of the sweetest and most meaningful Festival of Lights books to life. Their stories brighten the season for young readers from preschool up to middle school, and maybe even beyond, because adults love middle grade and picture books too. So I am thrilled to be joined by this fantastic panel of children's book creators. Sitting across from me virtually are Herz, Dara, Janie, Emaus, Dr. Kerry M. Olitzky, and Martha Simpson. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for
Good to be
having
here.
us.
Yep,
Yeah.
glad to be here.
So, if you're listening on a podcast, for instance, then the order of how everybody will be speaking, it'll go Janie, then Dara, then Henry, then Martha, then Kerry. So, the first voice you'll hear aside from mine will be Janie's. So, that's just a little heads up, a little housekeeping. And then, yeah, if everybody's ready, let's get into the first question.
Mhm.
So, to get us started and ease into the Hanukkah spirit, I'd love for each of you to hold up your book and introduce yourselves. Please share your name, a bit about your Hanukkah story, the age group it's geared towards, why you wrote it, and who the publisher is. That's a lot of questions in one, so take your time.
So just go.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, my name is Janie Emaus. I'm the author of the blended holiday story, Latkes for Santa Claus. Can you see the whole cover? I guess you can.
Yep.
And it's published by Sky Horse Publishing, came out actually during the pandemic in 2020. And I wrote this book because my husband is not Jewish. I am. And our daughter and his children, we celebrated both holidays all through their growing up years. And I never could find a book that was fun and delightful to them. It just was all real factual. So I got the title, Latkes for Santa Claus, about 20 years before I sold the book. It took a long time to sell it. Then it sold very quickly. It sold, editor liked it on a Thursday and she bought it on Monday or Tuesday of the week. So it was very quick. But basically that's why I wrote the book, just to show for families that have celebrate both holidays. And since then, every time I'm at a book signing, it's very easy to sell. People come up and go, that's my family. Now, since I published this book, I see a lot more fun books just like mine. But mine's the best. I'm good to put that in there. Anyways, that was the story for how I published my book.
Love it.
So.
So now we'll go to Dara. Yeah.
I'm Dara Henry, and this is my book, Hanukkah Pajamakas. It's published by Sourcebooks Kids, and it came out last year, September 2024. And I wrote the story because my family loves pajamas, specifically holiday pajamas and Hanukkah pajamas. We get new ones. I buy new ones for my family every single year, or we make them. We've been making them too, which I'll talk more about later. And it's just a really fun tradition in our house. And I got the idea one day when in January, my kids were still wearing their pajamas and I couldn't get them out of their pajamas one morning. And I thought, you know what? I think there's a story here because they just love them so much. And my kids wear them literally year round. So my story, Hanukkah Pajamakas, is about a little girl who gets Hanukkah pajamas and she loves them so much. She wants to wear them all 8 nights of Hanukkah. And her parents say, okay, but you have to keep them spotless for the Hanukkah pajamaka party. And you can imagine how well that goes. So she gets dirtier, messier, but one of the main points of the story, other than celebrating, festively or, in all, festive glory, is really because I wanted to let families, kids know that life actually isn't spotless. We oftentimes get messy. Things don't go as planned, and that's okay. And you can still have fun. And Ruthie, the main character, does.
All right.
Am I up?
Yep, you're up.
Hi, I'm Henry Hertz. I am the author of 14 picture books and numerous short stories, and I also edit anthologies. And I have 2 Jewish middle grade anthologies, one of which we're talking about today because it's Hanukkah-centric. It's called aptly The Festival of Lights. And it's got stories by some really talented authors, Kimberly Brubaker Bradley, Nancy Chernin, Stacia Deutsch, Bridget Hodder, Nancy Holder, Ellen Katz, Ginny Koch, Nancy Krullick, Joanne Levy, Terry Liebenson, and poems by Richard Mickelson and Leslie Newman. And stories by Erica Pearl and R.M. Romero and Helen Silverberg. So lots of good authors. The publisher is Albert Whitman and Company. And what was the rest of the question, Ethan?
Oh, I think you've pretty much covered everything. Let's see.
Right.
Oh, what age group is it geared towards? Yeah,
it's middle grade, so 8 to 12, 13.
Awesome. I think that's about it. You answered that perfectly.
Okay.
Okay. I'm Martha/Simpson, and my book is, The Dreidel That Wouldn't Spin, A Toy Shop Tale of Hanukkah. You can see it behind me. It is my first book that I wrote for Wisdom Tales Press. It came out in 2014, actually, so it's a little bit older than some of yours. It's illustrated by Durga Yael Barnard, and it's the first of 3 books we did together, and you can see all the 3 Jewish books there are with Wisdom Tales. And this story is about a dreidel, obviously. It takes place in an Eastern European town maybe over 100 years ago. It starts off in a toy store, and a peddler comes in. He's a traveling peddler with his push cart, and he comes in and he's talking to the shopkeeper, and he says, shows him this beautiful dreidel, and says, it's one of a kind, it's big, it's beautiful, it's fancy, it's perfectly carved and everything and painted. And the shopkeeper says, yes, I can sell this for a lot of money. And the peddler says, well, the miracle of Hanukkah can't be bought. And the shopkeeper says, whatever, I'm going to put this in my window and sell it for a lot of money. And then a little while later, a man and his daughter come in, and the shopkeeper can tell that they're wealthy because they have a lot of presents, they're well dressed. And the man says, take anything you want. And the girl runs around picking up all sorts of toys. And finally, she insists on getting this dreidel, even though it's very expensive. And so they buy it. But the next day, they come back because they're upset because the dreidel won't spin. And the shopkeeper is mystified by this, but he refunds the money. He doesn't want to get into an argument. He sells it later on that afternoon to a boy and his mother. And the boy is the kind of kid also who wants whatever he wants. But the same thing happened the next day. It wouldn't spin, so they came back to return it. And so the shopkeeper figures it's not going to sell. I'll just put it behind the counter. Later on that day, and by now it's the 3rd night of Hanukkah, a boy and his father pass by the store, and you can tell that they're poor. Their clothes are kind of tattered and mended. They don't have any packages, and they just want to come in and look at the toys. They don't have any money to spend, and so the shopkeeper lets them in, and the boy just marvels at all the wonders in the stores. And he is so appreciative. He thanks his father thanks the shopkeeper, and the shopkeeper's heart melts. And he says, you know what? I have something to give you. Try this dreidel. No one else can keep it because it won't spin for them. And so the boy takes it. And after that, a small miracle occurs. You'll have to read the rest of the book to find out what happens. But the reason I wrote it, is because like Dara, my family is a mixed family. My husband's Catholic. I'm Jewish. We have 4 kids. They're adults now. But when we raised them, we raised them Jewish. But I always felt like I had to compete with Christmas because there was so much commercialization going on with all the ads and the toys and the movies and all this stuff. And so I thought that enough with the commercialization. I don't want this to happen to Hanukkah. I'm going to write a story that's anti-commercialization. So this is about the spirit of Hanukkah that has nothing to do with toys and gifts and all that sort of thing. It's what Hanukkah really should be. And it's for ages 4 to 8. I think that's all the answers.
Great. I'm Kerry Olitzky, and I've been privileged to write a great deal over the course of my rabbinical career. And when I retired about 8 years ago, I decided to pivot most of my writing from adults to children. Perhaps it's a result of being blessed with 7 grandchildren. And so I always look for ways to raise up the holidays in the Jewish tradition, taking it from the baseline to something unique. When I was in rabbinical school, I was privileged to attend a quasi or pseudo intellectual debate, which was held locally, and it was a Hanukkah Hamantashen debate. I should say, I'm sorry, a Latke Hamantashen debate. And I learned that the first one was actually held at the University of Chicago in the 1940s. And I've been intrigued by this idea for many years. And I wondered, as I do with many of the kids' books that I write, how do you take such an abstract idea and place it into the hearts and minds of children? And so I reimagined this debate as a bit of a contest between two young girls who baked and cooked with their mothers these two holiday treats. And so they spent this time trying to figure out which one was the best. They had a local contest, and then they finally resolved it in the way that, although it's not mentioned in the book, there's a rabbinic notion called teku, which means it's an unresolved conflict. And how did they unresolve the conflict? They unresolved it because as they were debating, they got a whiff of blintzes that were from a local dairy shop. And so they kind of forgot their argument altogether, and they realized that, well, maybe the blintzes are even better than the latkes or the hamantashen. And that's kind of the gist of the story. It's designed for 5 to 8-year-olds, like most of the picture books that I've written. And it was published by Bedazzled Ink and its subsidiary Dragon Feathers Books.
Well, there you have it, everybody. Some incredible books that we have. And, all those descriptions kind of make you want to read them again because, I'm kind of on the edge of my seat, and all of you will have to read the story to find out what happens next. Or, some of them kind of, you had the conclusion, some of them you didn't. But, hey, that was, in the spirit of Hanukkah, let's read all the stories again. So, Hanukkah is full of meaningful traditions, from lighting the menorah to spending time with family and enjoying holiday foods. What is a special Hanukkah tradition from your past or present, or one you'd love to start in the future?
Okay, well, first of all, my book, which is The Latkes for Santa Claus, started because of our family tradition. And I didn't tell just a little bit more about the story because I didn't tell enough, like everybody else told a little bit more. But the little girl in this book thinks that she's celebrating her first Christmas because their family's blended, and she says cookies are boring. So she wants to give Santa something he can eat. And her brother, meanwhile, keeps telling her that cookies are better. He can't eat matzo ball soup with his fingers. He can't eat kugel with his fingers. And that's how the story evolves until, obviously, the title. So in our family, this may not be age appropriate for little kids, but we have all the women in the family get together and bake latkes. Every year we're doing it in 2 weeks. And every time we finish a batch, we have a shot of tequila. And that's our family tradition. It's been going on for, I don't even know how many years. My granddaughter will be coming this. She's 23. She started doing it when she was probably 10. So on on one night we make them, and the next night we have a big dinner party. But the celebrating and cooking the latkes, it's my mother's recipe. Actually, it's my grandmother's recipe. My mother is 100 years old, by the way. She's in the other room sleeping. And so it's her recipe, and it's in the back of the book. And it's a delicious recipe. It's our secret family recipe. Not so secret, but that's what we do every year. And I have a big Hanukkah party, and everybody gets a pair of fuzzy socks. So those are our traditions. I throw out like 20 or 30 pairs of socks on Hanukkah dinner. So it's really great. And I hope that my family continues the tradition forever. So come to my house and get a pair of socks and have some good latkes.
Love that sock story and the tequila story. That was great. We oftentimes, as I said, Hanukkah is really big in our house, and Hanukkah pajamas are really big in our house, Hanukkah pajamas. So we have always been, so I have 3 kids, and they're really close in age, and I've always kind of dressed them in matching pajamas, and sometimes we've taken family pictures, and so Hanukkah pajamas has been a thing. And so, but one one special tradition that we've had more recently. So I've always dressed them in Hanukkah pajamas. I love that there are more options now. Have you noticed that lately? I feel like everybody has all the retail stores, and it's so great. I love it. But we're making Hanukkah pajamas. I have a pair. This is from last year. And actually, I do this at some of my events too. You can these are actually pajamas, but you can just use plain white Hanes undershirts, and it's really inexpensive. You can buy a pack for like $10 on Amazon. But anyway, you can use stencils, you can use paints. But this year, and it's so exciting, I actually posted about this on Instagram. I have a niece who really loves princesses. And so I bought princess pajamas. And I don't know if you can see, we use stencils and put like dreidels and, menorahs and happy Hanukkah and hearts. And it's so fun. And as you can see, I'm wearing my special pajamas from the book. Uh-oh. I feel like I just disappeared. Am I still there?
You're there.
Oh, there we
You're
go.
there.
Okay. Sorry, I clicked on something. I was so excited. Anyway, so pajamas are really big, and that's our tradition. And I mean, we still make latkes and eat sufganiyot and light the candles and do all the special, wonderful things, but we have a twist. That's our twist.
I love it.
Thank you. It's fun and comfortable. You cannot get more comfortable than pajamas.
We have a couple of traditions. The first is we always use the same menorah, which my dad, it was a hobby. He was a silversmith, so he would make, he made a bunch of Judaica, including menorahs. This is sterling silver and ebony. So it's always nice he's not with us anymore, but he is through the menorah and the other things he's made. So that's always wonderful. And then we also, thinking back to my childhood and the tradition we continue with our kids, of course, what's your favorite part? Getting presents. So we did that with our kids as well.
Okay. Well, I also have a latke tradition in our family. When I was growing up, my mother had this big old heavy cast iron meat grinder, the kind where you put the food in the top and then you turn the crank and then, the meat comes out. But we used it for making latkes. And so, when I got married, got my own house, had some children, I found, I went to a flea market or a tag sale or something, and I found a big old cast iron meat grinder. So our tradition is that we designate one night during Hanukkah. It always changes. But we choose one night during Hanukkah. We invite all the friends over. Anybody who wants to come can come. I buy tons and tons of potatoes and onions, and we clamp that big old cast iron meat grinder onto a table. And, we take turns peeling potatoes. Everybody gets a chance to crank those potatoes and onions in there. And it's a big party, and everybody has a chance to make the latkes. We do, when it comes time to frying them, we've got a couple of pans going. We're tag teaming that, and it's a big latke making party, which turns into a latke eating party. And since then, we downsized last year and moved into an apartment. Our kids are all grown up, but my daughter has my cast iron meat grinder, and so we go to her house now, and we have everybody over, whoever can fit into her kitchen, and we crank up those latkes, and that's our big holiday.
So add tequila this time.
Unfortunately, they don't drink. I don't drink either, but
I'm sure you don't.
I neglected to hold up this particular book, which was this year's Hanukkah book that I Hamantashen or Latkes. We in our family we have lots of different Hanukkah traditions, and we add to them every year. Some of which are using different ingredients for latkes and experiment with them every year so that it's not just potatoes. This year, we're going to be able to celebrate Hanukkah in Israel, where the plethora of sufganiyot, of donuts, is just incredible because of its various kinds. One particular tradition that we introduced into our family a long time ago, which is contrary to what most customs suggest, most people will use the same shamus, a different shamus every night, a different servant candle every night in order to light the various candles depending upon the number of nights. I decided that it didn't make any sense to do that, that if the whole idea was to maintain continuity of the holiday, we actually use the same candle every night as the shamus. And we use that candle and then blow it out, and we use it for the rest of the holiday until the last day. To me, it just makes more sense. And because I'm trained in a particular way, I look at both the background of a particular custom and its utilitarian nature. And so when I look at both of those ideas, I decided that it made more sense aesthetically to hold on to that same candle for the 8 days. So that's one of the salient traditions that we maintain in our family.
Nice.
Well, those are also. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that's different.
Oh, nice.
I like it.
Those are all some amazing traditions. I have some of my own. My mom makes these. Let's see. She makes her own kind of candy dreidels. She has like Hershey Kisses as like the top. Then marshmallow is like kind of the body of it. Then a pretzel stick as the base. I always have my family over. Hanukkah is just probably my favorite holiday, and stories like yours just kind of add to that Hanukkah spirit. And inspiration for writing, I'm sure all of you as authors can attest to this. Inspiration for writing can come and show up in so many different ways. What first sparked the idea for your Hanukkah story, and what motivated you to bring it to life?
Well, I pretty much said what sparked it was the fact that my daughter, when she was little, I always wondered if she understood, like, was she confused? The book started off as a poem at that point. I thought I was poet laureate and I had the best poem in the world. And I had an agent actually also. She didn't end up selling it, but I just thought, was she confused? Because here's the menorah, here's the Christmas tree. Like, did she wonder who she was? And so that's what sparked the idea. And then, like I said, it took like 20 years for it to actually become published. I think the world had to be ready for my book because there was a lot more divergency and acceptance of people being different. When my daughter's 45 now. So this book, the idea was at least 30 years old. I mean, even more because she, was small. So that's where it came from, really, just my experience and wanting. Then I knew that we couldn't have been the only family in the whole world that was celebrating Hanukkah and Christmas. Although we were at the time, because we were in Grand Rapids, when it was a pretty, I think I was probably the only Jewish person in the town. Actually, I did not have any Jewish friends. So that's what sparked it. And then we moved back to California and we continued to do the menorah, the Hanukkah party, the Christmas, the ham, the whole, everything, both. So I thought, I want to give this back to the other families. I want them to have, well, what I say a lot of times too is, like any good mother, I wanted my daughter to have a book, and like any good writer who couldn't find one, I had to write it. So that's what sparked it. And yeah, so that's what brought me to come to, I can't even think. That's what brought me to this story.
So like Janie, I feel like my story comes from my family too. And as a parent, I'm always looking for ways to kind of give my kids more Jewish joy, or just have more Jewish joy in our family, and kind of cultivate that. And when I saw that my kids just love their Hanukkah pajamas as much as I do, which is so exciting because I love them so much, I just felt like there was a story there. In fact, the title, so this isn't always the way it works for me, but oftentimes titles pop into my head. And Hanukkah Pajamas popped into my head. And I very quickly that morning, I'll never forget, they were sitting on the floor playing Legos and couldn't get them in clothes. They just wanted to stay in their pajamas. So I was like, great, they're occupied. And I looked up Hanukkah Pajamas, like the title, to see if it was a story yet. And it wasn't. And then it just kind of came out. And I mean, not the draft that you read in this book, because it was actually very different. The story was about a little girl in pajamas, but it was actually a sentimental story. It was about almost like a little girl who couldn't let go of her childhood. She had special pajamas, and they were too small for her. So it was kind of a very different story, But still, even after I revised it, it stayed the same. And that inspiration coming from my kids in their Hanukkah pajamas is there, and it's been there. And that's what brought me to this story. And I hope that, because especially now, I think everybody is looking for it doesn't everybody's looking for more joy to give to young kids and families because it's kind of a tricky time right now with some things going on. So I feel like, especially at this holiday time, you can't have enough joy. So
with regard to Festival of Lights, so it's an anthology, so it's a collection of short stories by different authors. The idea for the anthology came to me. I was fortunate enough to be invited by PJ Way. They do an annual trip. They send authors to Israel as a group of about 15 of us. Mm-hmm. And I got to go and I made friends with a bunch of them. And I just thought, I've done 10 anthologies already. So I just love anthologies. I love collaborating with other writers. So that was an easy, hey, let's have some fun together. And then specifically my story features a kid who's never baked before, but because of some bullying at school, he ends up entering into a cooking contest at school, and he has to learn very quickly how to bake. It's sort of what's the term? It's contemporary, but there's some surrealistic components, like some inherited items from his grandfather, who was a cook in the old country, and he ends up I won't spoil it, but he ends up baking for the contest. And it was special to me too, because my younger son was really he started around this time, got into making his own food. So it's kind of, the story reminded me of him a little bit.
That's cool. Well, I kind of touched a little bit about the origin of my story. And again, I felt that I kind of had to compete with Christmas versus Hanukkah because we had the Christmas tree up, but we also had the Hanukkah decorations and everything. And so every year when Hanukkah came around, I would drive myself crazy. I had to make sure there were presents for every night. And not only were there presents, but there had to be books as well for every single night. And, I would spend, hours and, all this time collecting all these things. And by the end of Hanukkah, I was kind of stressed out by all of this. And so that's why I, wanted to write this book about holidays are too commercial. Let's get back to basics and the real spirit of Hanukkah. And the other thing is, the story is set in a store. And when I was growing up, my parents had a little mom and pop variety store. We had a real penny candy counter when you could actually buy candy for a penny. And my brother and I worked in that store. They had the store for 18 years. So we grew up in that store. And so, aside from the penny candy counter, there was bread and cigarettes and canned foods and milk and that sort of thing. But we had a small toy section. And as a matter of fact, the store wasn't big enough for all the toys. So my father had this string of wire all up and down this, from ceiling to ceiling, one side or the other. And we clipped on all these little toys. So there were toys all over the store. And so that kind of made me have the idea to set the story in a toy shop. I wanted to write a story that took place in a store, and I did. That was it.
Great. Well, I believe that, first of all, Hanukkah is the unofficial national holiday of the American Jewish community. And one of the reasons that we know this is that it's celebrated more than any other festival or holiday in the Jewish calendar. So that's one piece. The second piece is most people, if you ask how long is Hanukkah, they will say 8 days. I actually believe that as a result of it becoming the national holiday, that Hanukkah is now 6 weeks long. And why do I say that? I say it because the giant Chabad menorah usually is placed around the same time the giant Christmas tree appears in the community. And it isn't taken down until after the first of the year when the giant Christmas tree is also taken down. Now, what does that mean? Well, for me, it means that we're not limited to 8 days in terms of telling the Hanukkah story. or enjoying the various aspects of Hanukkah. So I was always looking for ways to expand on the celebration of holidays and what could we do. So as I mentioned, because during this period of time, these debates have cropped up in lots of places at different times, I thought, so why can't I do that at a different time? Unlike many of the specific holiday traditions, they tend to occur specifically during the 8-day period. But I wanted to look for something that didn't have to appear during or celebrate during the 8-day period, and what could it do beyond? And actually, the first one that I witnessed personally was in the 1970s. I was a rabbinical student at Hebrew Union College in Cincinnati, and the local Hillel had a debate featuring Dr. Jonathan Sarna, who is probably today the leading American Jewish historian, and somebody else. Sarna eventually became my own doctoral advisor, but it was his kind of inspiration to me almost 50 years ago that gave me the idea to one day write it down. And then when I started writing children's books, I thought this would be a perfect way to introduce this idea of the various holiday foods. Because the other part that's important to me is, how do you draw an invisible line from one holiday to another instead of looking at them as siloed events in the calendar?
Okay.
Well, those are all great sparks of inspiration. And, one day if I ever want to become an author, those kind of moments that you describe, that's gonna stick in the back of my mind, finding inspiration in whether it be, my personal background, and maybe when I'm with someone when I'm older, like their background kind of. All right, anyway, yeah, I was going off on a tangent, gotta stop myself. Um, so sorry, I just get very passionate about Hanukkah and your Jewish stories. So as a kid, that's a good segue. My tangent actually led to a segue. What do you know? As a kid, discovering books with Jewish protagonists or themes always felt especially meaningful, and it still does to this day. From your perspective as authors, why do you think it's so important for children to see themselves represented in the stories that they read?
Well, I think everybody wants to see themselves in a story that they read. Especially young children. My kids are older, but I have a niece and nephew who are 5 and 7. They like to see them. I mean, people want to feel that they're not alone. I mean, from every age, all the way up till, I'm a grandmother. I still want to read. Well, I don't want to read a story about grandmothers so much, but no, I also write a lot of ARP articles for people my own age. I have lifestyle. I chronicle my life. So I think that people, and I'll write something and I'll notice, oh, that person has that same issue in their family and they relate to it. So I think from the beginning of time, like, as soon as you can recognize that that person looks like you in a book. So it doesn't necessarily mean kids, but I think, and I'm grateful for the world today because there's so much more representation to find yourself, in a book. It's hard for me to think back to what my favorite books. Well, I love The Wind in the Willow. I don't know that I saw myself in those animals, but I don't. I mean, there's looking back, and I liked what was that elephant? Babar. I loved him, and I'm wondering what something maybe not a little bit all there. I like these animals more than people. But I know, I just think it's important for everybody to see themselves because there's inclusivity is, I don't know if that's how you say it, is so important. Everybody should, at whatever age, any nationality, religion, race, we all need to feel that we are not alone.
So. I agree, Janie. And I love that more and more I see so much diversity, especially in children's literature. It's so wonderful to see. When I witness my kids at the library or at a bookstore and they walk in and they see Hanukkah stories or Jewish stories, it's amazing. I mean, it's such a different experience than when you walk into a store around this time. We'll go into a store and maybe they have nothing that's Hanukkah related. They have nothing Jewish out. And my kids kind of, their faces fall a little bit. Like, this store only has, Christmas stuff, or it's almost as if they see that they think they're invisible. And so I think there's something about like Janie was saying, making sure that, I mean, I know it's hard to represent everybody, but I love the effort. I love that to see publishers and stores trying to make sure that they represent all different kinds of people and animals, people and animals. But, because we all love animals too. But still, I love it. I'm very appreciative when I see diversity.
Can I just answer her real quick? I know what you're saying because I went into a Target and trying to find Hanukkah paper is crazy. And I live in a highly Jewish area. And it just makes me nuts that like there's one roll of Hanukkah paper and 4,000 rolls of Christmas paper. And Hanukkah comes first here. We're coming up to it. And so that kind of infuriates me. So anyways, that has nothing. You can cut that out. Edit that out. Okay.
I agree with what's been said. I have nothing further to add on that subject. So I'll
well, I'm just going back to when I was growing up, and I grew up in the 60s, elementary school, junior high was in the 60s, and I never saw any Jewish characters in books at all. I didn't know about All of a Kind Family. When I went to the library, nobody introduced me to the book, so, I would check out other things. But I think the first book I read about a Jewish character or a Jewish person was when I was in middle school, and I read Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. So my first introduction was a Holocaust story. And that meant something to me because my father is a survivor. He, grew up in Poland, and he's a survivor of the Holocaust. But that was, my first introduction to a Jewish character in a book. And then later on, when Jane Yolen wrote The Devil's Arithmetic, that one was very special to me as well. And that's another Holocaust story. I think probably the first Jewish book I read to my kids was Just Enough is Plenty, a Hanukkah story, again about making latkes, by Barbara Diamond Golden. And, then I started to realize, okay, maybe there are some Hanukkah books here. And, when I became a librarian, I was a children's librarian in Connecticut for 28 years. And I started looking for books. Of course, I would buy all kinds of books, but I would specifically make sure that we had a decent collection of Jewish stories as well, because it's very important that we have Jewish stories.
I grew up in a small town in Florida, and in my graduating class of 1,000, there were 2 Jews, and I was one of them. And I recall going to the local shopping mall every year during Christmas time and seeing a giant Christmas tree and no Jewish representation. Then as a couple years later, I saw a giant Christmas tree and a tiny menorah next to it. And I recall probably by the time I was 12, 13 years old, there was a giant Christmas tree and finally a giant menorah was next to it, thanks to our friends from Chabad. And while I don't believe that Hanukkah should compete with Christmas, nor does it compete with Christmas, and I also do disagree with most of my rabbinic colleagues who will argue that Hanukkah is a minor festival. I think that in the American Jewish community, it's actually a major festival. And instead of hiding behind all of the reasons why it could be described as minor, we should be fully out there with a full-blown Hanukkah. That's why when I was running an organization called Big Tent Judaism, we pioneered some of what we called public space Judaism events, where the celebration of Hanukkah was intentionally out in the public. And I'm saying this by analogy to the question, or as an answer to the question of why is it important to see ourselves, or for kids to see themselves in Jewish stories? It's important for us to see ourselves, whether we're kids or adults, in life, especially in the American community, all year long, but particularly at Hanukkah, when the stimuli regarding Christmas is overwhelming, no matter where we go or what we do. And that's why it's really important for us to write stories and write books that allow kids to see themselves in them so they can say, I'm part of the fabric of this community. I belong here. And I'm glad that I belong here.
Right.
As I'm listening to all of you, I hope it's okay that I think it struck me. I think something I was trying to get out, but I didn't, is that we all want to know we're not invisible.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like if you're represented in stories, if you see your holiday or something that represents you at a store, then people see you. You're not invisible. If your holiday isn't represented anywhere, if you go into Target and they don't have any, anything Hanukkah, it's almost as if you don't exist. That's how it feels sometimes. Or I don't know, maybe that's too dramatic, but that's kind of how it feels to me. Or, that's what I imagine when I see my kid's face fall. I don't know.
No, I agree with you. But I'm not being able to find the stuff. Like I have certain stores I know. There's the Shalom store down the street. I know they're going to have what I need. But sometimes I'm in the bigger supermarkets. And you walk in and it's like this just Christmas blaring everywhere. And then there's like a little itty bitty, like Passover. Like I'm trying to find stuff.
Yes.
Little tiny shelf down there with. Anyways, yes, I agree.
You want to matter.
Yeah. And I want to be able to buy it conveniently also. I don't want to have to go from store to store to store to store.
These are all very true points. They stand true. And your books are the shining lights that are able to ensure that kids nowadays and hopefully forever will have access to stories where they can see themselves, whether they are Jewish kids or beyond the scope of Jewish stories, maybe books with AAPI heritage, African American, LGBTQ. It's so important that kids see themselves in the books that they read. But honing in on Hanukkah, as it is Hanukkah when this releases, Judaism is rich with beautiful music. Music is a huge part of our culture. And while, as I believe it was Martha that talked about the commercialization of Christmas and all the Christmas songs that you hear on the radio, Hanukkah has some great songs as well. It has some great ones, but not that many in total. But anyway, what are some of your favorite Jewish songs, either for Hanukkah, or if you want to kind of broaden the scope, what are some of your favorite songs in general? They could be prayers, or they could be songs that aren't necessarily.
Well, mine are pretty common ones because every Passover we sing Had God Yo. Sometimes we've sung it twice, which two different tables sing which one. I have huge, like 20 to 30 people at these events. Hanukkah, Passover, it's a lot of cooking. But Had God Yo is one of my favorites. Dayenu, and then for Hanukkah, who doesn't love Oh Hanukkah, or the dreidel? And now I can't. Everything just went out of my brain. Anyways. And it's fun to see all the younger generation learning the lyrics and singing along. So my favorite ones are just, the pretty popular ones. That's my favorite. I'd say Had God Yo is probably my favorite.
Well, I don't know if anybody else has heard of the Maccabees.
Oh, I love the
Maccabees. They're an a cappella group, and they are incredible. And they are on repeat in our house around this time for sure. But, I try to play them at other times too, because they don't just have Hanukkah songs. If you haven't listened to them, you definitely have to check them out. In fact, I think, was it last year that they did like a Wicked? I think they had something like a parody based on Wicked. But they had like really great festive songs, and they have one thing that I really love about it is they take like newer songs and they incorporate aspects of traditions and the holidays, and it's so great, and they're so talented. So I love them. I love all their songs. And then I really also love so something that's kind of meaningful. My mom was recently very sick, and so on repeat, I was listening on the way back and forth to the hospital. Debbie Freeman, she had the Misha Berach, and that was I didn't know the whole prayer myself, like without looking at it, but I felt like if I listened to her singing it, I could sing along, like in the car going to and from the hospital. So, and by the way, my mom's doing great. So, I think that maybe helped.
I second the vote for the Maccabees. I love their music.
Okay.
I don't particularly have a favorite song, but I would say they're probably my favorite performer of Hanukkah songs. I'll also mention that I forget which, unfortunately, because there's like 16 stories. But Festival Lights, one of the stories features a kid who kind of points out in the course of the story that a lot of the famous Christmas songs are from Jewish composers, which is kind of funny.
Right.
That's all I got.
When I was growing up, my parents, and all my aunts and uncles, they all spoke Yiddish. And my parents would play Yiddish music. And I have my parents' old albums. In case you can see this, Theodore Bickel was a favorite. He had a song about Humintaschen that was really hysterical. And so I didn't even know that he was a famous actor on Broadway and in movies and all that stuff. I thought he was a Jewish folk singer because that's what I heard growing up. And the other Jewish singer, again, growing up in the 60s, Alan Sherman. Anyone remember Alan Sherman? My son, the folk singer, although I probably can't see that. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people know Hello Mother, Hello Father, but we grew up listening to like My Zelda and some of the, Oh Boy, and all these other funny songs that he sang. So yeah, Alan Sherman was one of my favorites growing up.
Great. I would say I have a couple of favorites. The first one for Hanukkah is a song, Judah Maccabee by Safam, which is a folk group out of Boston. And the refrain is Get Down, Judah. And I recall when I first finished rabbinical school and I was a pulpit rabbi in West Hartford, Connecticut, I introduced this song. And in the small chapel in the synagogue, there were about 100 kids standing on the pews, dancing, singing, etc., to the chagrin of many of their parents who thought that there should be much more decorum in the synagogue than I was encouraging. But it's a great piece, and it's very lively, and it focuses on Judah as a Maccabee. The second piece, in terms of what's one of my favorite Jewish pieces of music, is a lesser known piece called Jerusalem is Mine by a man named Kenny Karen. And it's one of the most powerful, moving pieces of music relating to Jerusalem in particular and Israel in general. And I would say, similar to what you said before, in terms of a Misha Berach, I actually have a favorite. Leon Scher did a piece called Heal Us Now. And as much as I love and was personally friendly with Debbie and knew her for many years prior to her untimely young death, this piece really moves me significantly. So it's Heal Us Now by Leon Scher.
Yep. Yeah.
I think it was Henry that mentioned that a lot of like non-Jewish holiday music is written by Jews. And I think Ethan, I recently saw that you were in a musical or play.
I was.
So I think, were you a theater
guy? I'm a theater guy, yeah.
Okay, so we're a theater family too. And so we have a couple kiddos who are going to be in Elf the Musical coming up, which I know is not at all Jewish, but it is super fun and super holiday and festive and fun. And I'm only really bringing it up because the music for Elf the Musical, one of the people who wrote it, the composers, I actually don't know if he was, I don't know his exact role, but I know Matthew Sklar, who happens to be, my husband happens to know him from childhood, and he wrote a lot, he's, had a big hand in writing a lot of the holiday music. So, and it's good music. If you haven't listened to the music, I highly recommend it. And if you haven't, seen the show, check it out.
What's Elf the Musical?
Yeah, Elf the Musical. Yeah, I mean, my kids are going to be in Elf Junior. It's it's the junior version of it, but yeah, okay. I actually have one of mine is Buddy. Elf.
So cool. Yeah. The play that you were talking about, I was in A Midsummer Night's Dream, one of the leads. It's a Shakespeare production. It's a lot of fun.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was great. A great experience, and it felt like, it's in English, obviously, but it felt like a whole new language. Just trying to understand, like what Shakespeare was really kind of talking about. The language is entirely different in a sense.
Yeah, is that what you want to do? You want to be an actor?
I actually want to be a journalist, but I love acting as well. So, my favorite Hanukkah song, if I'll just chime in, probably Adam Sandler's Hanukkah song that
I
he
was
sang
thinking
on
Oh, right.
That's a good one.
one of my
It's a
favorites.
There's
good
several
one.
versions now.
Actually, I feel like we need Adam Sandler. We need him to like somehow, we need to call his people because the Hanukkah pajamaka feels like it, he talks about that's like part of the rhyme, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't he say like something about Veronica, harmonica?
Harmonica.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yarmulke.
yeah,
Well, I
yeah,
was
yeah.
trying to get,
So,
somebody told me I should call Adam Sandler and see if he wants to make a movie out of my book. I said, well, okay, if you get a hold of him, let me know.
He should come.
Dara, if you
Yes,
find him, send him. Let's join up and find him.
Well,
Ethan, we
everybody, here's
needed him
Adam
on your
Sandler,
podcast
special
today.
guest.
I actually think that Adam Sandler's Hanukkah song did more for Jewish education than the last 20 years of Sunday school because
Yeah.
it's able to, without any barrier, share a particular story in an upbeat way rather than the kind of doldrums of Sunday school. But don't quote me on that.
Well, and he also talks about historical figures that, like maybe they're pop culture references, but still, I mean, some not Jewish, part Jewish. What does he say? Like a quarter Jewish or something, but it's fun.
O.J. Simpson, not a Jew.
Not a Jew.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He was
Yeah,
good. Funny.
this is great. So now it's time for another question. Of a similar vein, I'd say, kind of open-ended. If you could meet one Jewish person from history, they could be real or fictional, who would it be and why?
From history,
Yeah.
well, I have been thinking about this a little bit.
Or current. They could be.
Yeah, I would really like to talk to Bob Dylan. I would love to meet him. He was like the voice of my generation. I love all his songs. Not to bring things down, but my husband passed away like 4 days ago. And
Oh.
you don't have to put this in the podcast, but I'm just sharing it with you guys. And one of the last movies we saw together was his movie, and my husband played the guitar, and there's just a lot of things that Bob Dylan brings up in me. I also like to know why he changed his last name, but no, I think I know why he did. Anyways, yeah, there's a lot of people that I would like to meet, but since he's still alive, maybe there's a chance. I don't. But no, that's who I would like to meet. I like to talk to him, thank him for all of his lyrics, and just for the way he's always just part of our lives, my life. So yeah, that's who I would like to meet. And please edit that other part out. I don't need everyone in there. I just wanted you guys to know. That's all.
Yeah, I can edit it out. I'm so sorry for your loss.
Yeah, he was really sick for a while, so it was very sudden. It was 3 days ago or 4 days ago, right before Thanksgiving. But anyways. So yeah, any music. I would like to meet all the musicians actually that I could. Anyways, thank you. That's all I have to say on that.
I'm sorry for your loss too.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't want to bring it up, but then it's like right here, like sitting on my shoulder and sitting here, and
Of course.
dog is right here next to me, so it's hard. It was hard for me to not say something. I don't know. Maybe it was inappropriate, but I'm sorry.
Well, if you want to know why
Well-
Bob Dylan changed his name, my book Heroes with Chutzpah has a bio of Dylan in it, and I'll give you the answer there.
Okay, thanks.
So I know this, well, I would like to meet Albert Einstein not for the reason that you think. So in this picture, I don't know if you can really see, this is just a printout. This isn't the real picture. I don't know. I have maybe a better version on my phone, but can you see this? No, but anyway, maybe this is better. But Albert Einstein is here, and this is actually my great-grandfather.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So my great-grandfather, he is like shaking hands and giving and presenting like an award to Albert Einstein. And, I mean, obviously there are so many reasons to want to meet Albert Einstein. He so many theories I'd love to talk with him about and all the good stuff. But I actually don't know that much about my great-grandfather. I'm sorry if I said my grandfather. It's my great-grandfather. I don't really know that much about my great-grandfather. And I would love to be in this room right here because I don't know that much about it. I mean, it's kind of like this story has been passed down. And my parents have like the original picture. So this is obviously this is a printout. But I don't know. I'd like to know more about it. And I'd like to know more about not only Albert Einstein, but also my great-grandfather.
So was your great-grandfather a scientist?
So actually, he was a dean at Yeshiva University. I think he helped. Now, once again, this is all like hearsay. So I don't know exactly how much of this is historically accurate. I mean, this is legitimate. But what I mean by this is I think that my great-grandfather helped like start and found Yeshiva University. And so he was a dean there. And like supposedly there are papers there that are his. If I went there, one day I will go and kind of do some more research a little bit about it. So
that's very interesting.
It is cool, and I'm really so I would like to go. Thank you for asking the question, Ethan, because I feel like it kind of gave me an opportunity to kind of dip back into the family history for a minute.
So, Ethan, I'm mad at you. I want more than one, but if I have to choose one, probably Moses. I want to meet Moses and find out what it was like to meet the big guy.
That's a good one.
What a fascinating character, and I always liked the fact that not just him, but a lot of people that appear in the Torah are not painted. They're painted realistically. They have strengths and they have flaws. That makes it feel much more real than if they were just like perfect in every way. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the classics.
Yeah, my answer is going to be kind of bittersweet. I did mention that my father's a Holocaust survivor. He was the youngest of 7 children growing up in Poland, and he and 2 brothers and 1 sister survived, and everybody else was gone. And I'm named after 2 of his older sisters, Martha Florence. Florence was my original middle name. And the only thing we know about the person who is Martha, I think they called her Mincha in Yiddish. All I know about her is that she was married and had 2 kids, or at least 1 kid, maybe. And then they lived somewhere near the German border. And so my father never knew what happened to her, but it was assumed that they were one of the first waves that, the Nazis got to. And so I never thought to ask my father a lot of these questions about his past life, because it was very painful for him and he didn't want to talk about it. But I really wish that I could go back and meet my namesake and find out more about her. I don't know what her married name was. I don't know what her husband or children's name were. I don't know what happened to her. And so I would really like to go back and find out some of that family history. That would be important to me.
I've been privileged to meet a lot of leaders in Israel over the course of my life. In particular, I had the pleasure of spending a couple of hours in the early 70s with Ben Gurion at his home. But one person that I never was able to meet was Golda Meir. And even though I was in Israel during her lifetime, it just never occurred. And so that's really somebody. And as I learn more and more about her, I'm reading a book kind of about her now. It's just somebody that I really would have liked to spend time with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was a hero in our family.
I thought about when I was going through, I was trying to find famous Jewish people, but I didn't realize some people who were Jewish, you just don't know. And I was thinking of her too, also Golda.
Those are all great answers. Albert Einstein was going to be mine. So I guess to think of a different one, I would say present day, maybe Timothy Chalamet. Well, that all rhymes. I'm going to say present day Timothy Chalamet. I'm a poet and I didn't even know it.
And he played Bob Dylan.
Yeah. That would probably be my pick. Great actor, amazing singers, just super talented. And I watched on Saturday Night Live. I watched when he hosted maybe a year or 2 ago. He's super funny as well.
Good on that. He was great.
Yeah, all around talented. Seems like a great person as well. And he's a big basketball fan. I want to be a sports journalist specifically when I grow up. So that fits pretty perfectly. So I just want to say to everybody, thank you so much for taking some time out of your Sunday to talk with me. It means so much.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you for having us.
Yes, it was very nice. Thank you.
Well
Yeah,
done. It's
I'm
hard to
really
believe
glad.
you're only 14.
Yeah, almost 15.
What grade
15
are you
in December.
What
So
grade are you in?
Wow.
I'm a
Wait,
freshman
we
in
might
high
be
school.
birthday twins. I'm December 2.
I'm December 28th. So
Okay, so you're later than me. I'm the 12th.
but yeah, if everybody can maybe hold up their book, we could do like a group picture. I can
Sure.
share it online afterwards. All right, 3, 2, 1. Say Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah.
Hanukkah.
Awesome. It's gonna turn out perfectly. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for
It was
having
great
us. This
being
was
here.
so much fun.